How can you go about writing a great, catchy melody for your next synthwave track? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to walk through step by step how you can create awesome melodies every single time. Hey, I'm Reagan Ram with OrpheusAudioAcademy.com, helping you make better music and grow your fan base online. And when it comes to creating melodies, there's kind of two schools of thought. Some people start with the melody first, other people start with the rhythm first. And I don't know about you, but I find it's much easier to have the rhythm of your track down first. So I recommend actually creating the chords for your song first, because once you kind of have the chords down, then I feel like that's when the melody ideas start to come to me. But obviously, to each their own, everyone has their own strategy, but this is what I found works for me. And by the way, if you're wanting help with creating those awesome, dreamy synthwave chords, then you can check out my other video on how to do just that. I'll link to it in the description below. So once you have your chords down, now you can start to create that melody. And I don't know about you, but I can't actually play an instrument, so this is sometimes difficult to me. I have a MIDI keyboard. I also can use musical typing in Logic with my just computer keyboard. And so a lot of times I'll just use those and I'll just mess around and play notes. But that can be difficult if you don't know all the notes in a particular scale either, because I don't have all the scales memorized. So this is kind of an optional step, but if you want help, you might want to create some ghost notes. And so that way, when you go to create your melody, you can see in front of you what are all the notes in the scale, so you can be sure to hit everything correctly. So once you have your ghost notes, now it's time to go and write that melody. And you could just, ad lib, just have the music looping and then just mess around on your keyboard, hitting random notes until you come up with something that sounds good to you. I've done that plenty of times and that works great, but that can be a little time consuming. So it can be helpful to have a starting place in mind, kind of a structure, if you will, for how you're going to about creating your melody. And there's really three great melody structures that you can follow if you're just wanting a starting place to create a catchy melody. But first off, what makes something catchy? I think really what it comes down to, and what the music industry as a whole has really been spamming this strategy, is that something that repeats becomes catchy. So the more something repeats, the catchier it is, because it really sticks in your mind. And that's why so many songs today are so repetitive, for better or for worse. So I'm going to demonstrate these three different melody structures. Each of them have some element of repeatability in them. And I'm going to be annotating each of these sections with the letters A, B, and C. And so each of these letters represent a musical motif. And so that's just a small unit of repeating notes that are recognizable. So like a musical phrase. And by the way, quick shout out to Arcade High, awesome synthwave band, who also demonstrated these three awesome musical melody structures in one of his videos. So you can check that out. Also, I'll link to that in the description as well. All right, so melody pattern number one is A, B, A, B. So this is a very common melody structure, and for good reason. It's very catchy. And you simply have two different musical motifs that alternate back and forth. So some examples of this are A Real Hero by College, awesome, amazing song. Waiting on the Summer by VH Collection, Sunset by The Midnight, and one of our songs, which hasn't been released yet, Reflection. So if you're going to write your melody and you're going to use this structure, just come up with two different motifs. If you're having a typical 4-bar kind of melody play, then that's the first 2 bars, and you just copy and paste those for the next 2 bars. And so you have that repeating A, B, A, B structure. And then melody pattern number 2 is A, 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 B. So obviously this has a lot of repeating. You have the A motif, which repeats almost all the way through. And then you have a little B section there, a little change to the motif that kind of ties a bow on everything and wraps it up very nice, and keeps it from just getting monotonous and boring. And so examples of this are Sad Machine by Porter Robinson, Calling by Calyx, Miami Nights by Arcade High, and Australopithecus, another one of our songs that has yet to be released. It's on our upcoming album. And then melody pattern number 3 is the A-B-A-C structure. You have the least amount of repeating here. You just have the A that repeats, but I find this might actually be one of my favorite ones because I like kind of having that different B and then a different C motif going on in that melody structure. And especially if you're going to be repeating your melody anyway, then you're getting that repetition as well. That adds to that catchiness. But I think this one is really cool. One of the most well-known songs with this is Mary Has a Little Lamb. Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then you have Summer of Heat as well, which is one of my favorite synthwave songs of all time by Mitch Murder featuring Christine. Because the Night by Patti Smith, recently covered by The Midnight, another awesome, amazing song. And then we use this in our song Surfing on the Sun, also on our upcoming album. So you, of course, don't have to follow these melody structures, but you can use them as a starting point, and you can always adjust from there if you're stuck and looking for a way to write that melody quickly and have something in mind to get started so that the creativity can flow. So once you have your structure in mind, now you just play the notes, right? If you can play an instrument, you just play the notes. Or if you're like me, you can just kind of stab in the notes on your MIDI keyboard. Or if that isn't working for you, you can actually just write in your notes. But I know this can be really hard to do, especially with the feel of the music. It can be hard to write that in because you kind of have to feel the rhythm of what's going on to write in that melody to fit if you're following this method of writing a melody. So what can be helpful is you just get the pattern down first. So you have your MIDI keyboard or you just use your computer keyboard. And as you're listening, you just hit one single note every time for where you want a note to go. And so you're gonna get this really just boring one note melody, but you have all the notes kind of in the place you want them to be. So you just listen, hit that note to where you want the beats or the notes to fall. And then from there, then you just can go and, again, using those ghost notes to help guide you, you can just move those notes that you played in up and down until you have some kind of melody that you like. But even with this, it's going to be a somewhat boring melody if you just, had that one note rhythm that you were playing. So you might want to go in and add some interest. So if most of your melody was played with like eighth notes, maybe you want to add in some 16th notes here and there, or lengthen some notes, or move some notes forward and backward so they're not so rigid on the scale, or whatever it fits for your song. You're just going to go and tweak now. You're going to go draw in some extra notes, move notes around, change the length of notes just to make it a little bit more interesting. Or you might even want to write a build up or a lead into that melody as well. And so once you've done that, your melody is done. And by the way, speaking of Synthwave, I have a free Synthwave drum sample pack that I want to give to you. So just click in the description below and that will take you to a page where you can sign up to get my free Synthwave drum samples. By the way, if you're looking for a complete step-by-step tutorial on how to go about creating amazing synthwave songs, I have a tutorial video you can check out playing on the screen right now that will walk you through the entire process of creating a synthwave song step by step. All right, have a great day and keep creating.